Yo, what's up, guys? Canada's men's national team is off to their first ever round of 16 with a 1-0 victory today against South Africa. Really good job by Canada's men's national team, guys, fighting to the bitter end and finding a way to get a 1-0 victory today against South Africa. Showing a lot of character, a lot of fight, obviously. It wasn't a great game today, say the least. I feel like it was a little bit of a flag game, a little bit of a boring game at times, in this game today between South Africa and Canada. Guys, a little bit of a 50-50 first half, I thought. Canada obviously made some changes to the starting 11 today, bringing back Tanya Oluwaseun back to the starting 11. We saw Liam Miller back in the starting 11. We saw Stephen Eustáquio back in the starting 11, and we saw Moise Bambito replacing Luke DeFuzio in the starting 11. So Canada made some changes to the starting 11. Good to see Bambito back in the 11. Great to see Eustáquio back in the 11. Of course, ironically enough, he's the one who obviously scored the match winner. But we obviously missed him in the last game against Switzerland, where he controlled the midfield, where he came into the game, made an impact off the bench for Team Canada there, guys. Really good to have Eustáquio back in this game today. But like I said, it wasn't a great game to say the least. Both halves were a little bit flat. Both teams were very timid. Both teams are a little bit scared to attack and press, getting caught on a counter, or somebody getting in behind the defense there. So both teams, didn't really do much attacking-wise. So Canada had, I felt, the best chance of the game. Of course, with Moise Bambito off a corner kick there, makes that incredible leap, to get ahead on the ball there. But South Africa makes a great defensive clearance. They're on the line there to keep it 0-0. Probably Canada's best chance, I feel, in that first half, if not the best chance in open play I felt in the game, except for Eustáquio's goal, obviously. But Canada, I thought, were good defensively. South Africa did push a little bit, did try to get into Canada's box and have an attempt on goal, but they didn't really test Max Crepeau much today, guys. Didn't really hit the target very much, maybe a couple of times here and there. Crepeau wasn't very tested, didn't have to do very much in this game today. Canada's defense at times were a little bit tested here and there, but not too much to worry about with South Africa. They don't obviously have the best attack, and obviously not one of the best teams in the tournament. Of course, it was obviously a favorable draw for Canada, who have obviously been playing Algeria most likely, of course, if they had won the group and beat Switzerland last game, of course. But, Canada did get the result. They did push up in the second half after Alphonso Davies came into the game. Great to see Alphonso Davies back in the game, guys. Obviously being off the last month and a half or so, dealing with an injury. Of course, Canada sorely missed him, I felt, in multiple games there, guys. Canada really missed his dynamism, his pace, his distribution. Of course, Fonzie came right into the game, and Canada had a great opportunity, of course, right off the bat, where Promise David took a shot on net there, but just slightly missed the net there. He could have made the pass to Schaffelberg, who came into the game as a substitution. He could have passed it to him, but unfortunately he did it there. So there were some times where Canada did frustrate me. Couldn't place a couple passes here and there, 2 to 3 passes in a row without obviously getting dispossessed. Some of their crosses were obviously not very good. Obviously they were overkicked, or completely missing, guys. So it was a bit of a frustrating game, of course, but of course, this was Canada's biggest game, of course, in their history, obviously, until the next game in the round of 16, of course. So you knew that Canada were a little bit shaky at times in this game, showed some nerves, of course, in this game. Were very flat at times. Jonathan David didn't do much. Oluwaseun had a very good chance where he had a shot on net there on the break with her. David had an attempt there to try and get the rebound, but unfortunately wasn't quick enough there. South Africa's defender was able to get to the ball there first and clear it out there. So Canada had, I felt, the best chances to get a goal before Eustáquio scored the winner there, guys. But unfortunately, Canada, I felt, had some good opportunities to get an extra goal before the Eustáquio goal. Wasn't the case, but they found a way, showed some character in this game, guys, to get that goal there. Really good crossing by Schaffelberg. South Africa clear it out, and it falls right to Eustáquio with the great shot there to score it at the bottom left corner. As soon as I saw that ball fall to Eustáquio, I knew right away he had to shoot it and hit the target, and that's exactly what he did. An absolutely great goal by Stephen Eustáquio, who didn't come into the game till later on, of course, against Switzerland, like I mentioned. An absolute leader in this squad, showing what he does best on the field, being a leader for this team, getting a massive goal for Team Canada, guys, to carry them on to the round of 16. It was an absolutely massive goal for him, probably the biggest goal of his career. I felt one of the biggest goals, if not the biggest goal in Canadian men's soccer history, guys. It was an absolutely great goal. Obviously we want to see a better result or better performance, to say the least. Probably us fans are hoping for a little bit more of the Qatar game, to say at least, where Canada was non-stop attacking, non-stop pushing. We didn't see that for much of this game today. We saw it later on in the second half after Davies came in. Canada's confidence started to grow. They started to push more, and then they were lucky enough to finally break the deadlock there and get that goal there. But I obviously want to see Canada push the field more, attack more, of course, against South Africa. Obviously, now, do I expect that in the next game against either Morocco or the Netherlands? Obviously not. Of course, those teams there have way more quality, way more, obviously, just more talent, of course, in general. But listen, Canada's going to go try their best. I expect them to do whatever they can to try to get a result against the Dutch or Morocco, but it's going to be tough. But Jesse Marsch, I feel, made some good changes. I like Bombito starting. Would have liked to see Defusion starting instead of Cornelius, even though I didn't feel Cornelius was bad today. One thing, though, that I will say regarding Jesse Marsch, what is the obsession with playing Liam Miller, for God's sakes? Liam Miller is just not that good of a player. I like Ali Ahmed better, or Jacob Schaffelberg playing on the left side. If Alphonso Davies is obviously not 100% as he is currently, of course. Liam Miller just doesn't give you enough, doesn't have any pace, doesn't put in good crosses, doesn't put any good passes in. So for me, Liam Miller is more of a depth guy, a guy that I do not feel should be starting for Team Canada in the round of 16 game against Morocco or the Dutch. Shouldn't have started in this game. I felt that was a bit of a head scratcher, obviously. So Oluwaseyi as well, I understand why he put him in the game, for his pace. Kyle Aaron's obviously more of a poacher, but Canada obviously didn't have too many opportunities. Of course, Jonathan David was pretty much non-existent in this game, in a lot of points in this game. I felt Promise David came in and gave Canada a little bit something different, of course, on the field. So I like the substitution there. We'll see what Jesse Marsch has planned up his sleeve. I do not expect Alphonso Davies to start next game against Morocco or Netherlands, of course, but I would like to see Ali Ahmed or Jacob Schaffelberg start next game. Tajon Buchanan had a little bit too much of a quiet game. So did Nathan Saliba, of course. Johnson and Larea, I thought they were pretty solid, especially Richie Larea, who drew a foul in the box in the first half. Could have been a shout for a penalty, but I guess they didn't call it a penalty because Larea kind of stuck his leg out a little bit there. I have no idea. I thought it was a penalty at first, but clearly they felt differently, obviously. So that was another missed opportunity there, guys. But Larea and Johnston were good. I thought Bombito was good for the 50 minutes plus that he played. I thought that Cornelius was pretty decent. Obviously Eustachio was solid. Saliba was quiet. So was Buchanan. Liam Miller, I'm not a big fan of course, didn't have a great game. David was quiet. Oluwaseyi had a decent chance, like I mentioned. But Canada, though, guys, not the best performance today. Was good enough to beat South Africa, but you're going to need a way better performance against Morocco or the Dutch if you want any possibility of finding a way, guys, to get into a World Cup quarterfinal. It would be absolutely immense if Canada can find a way to get to a quarterfinal, but it is absolutely an uphill battle for Team Canada, guys. Are going to be the absolute underdog in the next game they do play in, but good on Canada, guys, continuing to make history, getting out of the group stage, now winning a round of 32 game. Canada continued to break records, guys, and continue to make history. It's absolutely fantastic. Jesse Marsch said the same thing to them in the huddle, guys, after the game. You guys are making history, Canadian history. This is absolutely fantastic for Team Canada, guys. Really enjoyed how they've been playing in this tournament. Of course, obviously, I feel they could have been better in some other games. Of course, we have the talent. We have some solid players, of course, but now things are going to get tighter in the tournament because obviously the better teams are going to start playing each other, of course. And it's going to be very difficult for Canada, guys, to find a way to be one of those two teams. Is there hope and is there a possibility? Of course there is. It's football, guys. Anything can happen in European football, guys. Anything can happen in the World Cup. So we'll see what happens, guys. Against these European teams, it's going to be difficult. And these international games is obviously up in the air. You don't know what the result is going to be, but we'll see how Canada does, guys, in the next match of the round of 16. Congratulations to the men's national team for getting there. Good on Jesse Marsch, continuing to do good work. The team is showing character, fight, and spirit. Playing for Kone, of course, who obviously couldn't play in this game with the busted leg, but this team shows character and fight, and you can be nothing but proud of them for showing it, and continuing to fight till the end. And I can be nothing but proud of how they're playing right now, guys. We'll see how they do in their next game. Really solid performance today at times in this game today, but obviously flat and stagnant at times as well. I thought Canada were a little bit better in the second half, especially the last 15 to 20 minutes, guys. First half was a little bit more 50-50, but obviously wasn't a great game to say the least. But we'll love to hear everyone's thoughts and opinions on how Team Canada played in this game today, guys. 1-0 win for Canada today. Good job by the men's team, guys. We'll see who they play. Morocco and the Netherlands play tomorrow night, guys, at 9 o'clock Toronto time, Eastern Standard Time. So we'll see how they do in that game. It's going to be interesting now, guys, now that there's elimination games. You know, things are going to get more interesting. The games are going to be a lot more tighter now. This is when the World Cup gets a lot more interesting, and I'm glad to know that Canada is involved in it, guys. So we'll love your thoughts and opinions on the game today for Team Canada, guys. So if you like this video, subscribe if you guys want to see more content. Go Canada, go as always, guys. We'll see you guys on the next episode of Rack One Filter. Ciao, guys.